Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Occult Think Tank. My name is Greg. In today's program, I am going to be talking about the character of Jesus and the idea from the Yellow Book that Jesus was not only an alien, but some big hippie teaching peace and love. This is such dribble that it makes me wonder if those who spout this have actually read the Bible and read what supposedly this Jesus had said. Now, this is a very big shift from where I was when I was conditioned into Christianity as a young child. Because for those that have heard my deconversion process, the idea of choosing between whatever was guiding me and Jesus was something that was difficult for me. It wasn't an easy transition to make because there was a lot of cognitive dissonance regarding the figure of Jesus. I was very deeply programmed from a young age to regarding Jesus as having to make a choice of that matter. So whatever it was changed their approach, and it became one of, even if you would be accepted, could you go along with the torture of others simply because they think like you? That really put a fine tune on what ultimately became my big problem with not only Jesus but Christianity and the God narrative. That being thought crime is at the heart and soul of what Jesus was about, what Christianity is about. The idea that somebody not thinking a certain way means they have to be or should be tortured is an offense to my humanity. This actually became a point of contention when I was in the Army and I was asked by a sergeant why I reject Jesus. And I had asked the same question that led me away from Christianity, because the answer to the question from him would get at and show everyone hearing the conversation my big problem with Christianity and Jesus and Christians in general. And I asked him, could you go along with the torture of somebody else simply because they don't think like you? He tried to dance around it, and I became very aggressive and forced him to answer the fucking question. And he said yes. And there was a sergeant that was there that saw my eyes blaze, and I ended up doing push-ups. But when that sergeant and I got back to the barracks where we were sleeping, just him and I, he looked at me and said, "That's fucked up." He acknowledged that what that sergeant had said was fucked up, and that he only had me do push-ups and so forth because, one, he knew I was pissed, and it was all show type of thing. The aspect of showing respect to a superior officer, to me, it didn't matter. It was irrelevant, the aspect of respect, because I do feel, and I felt then, respect is earned. It's not given out like a prize in Cracker Jacks. And anybody that can go along with the torture of somebody else simply because they don't think a certain way, that does not deserve respect. In fact, that deserves condemnation. Because, as that sergeant had admitted to me privately, that's fucked up. Anybody that thinks like that is fucked up. And for that to be acceptable in and of itself proves Jesus and Christianity is not a religion of peace and love. It is a mindset of control through fear and the torture of those that do not think like you. This is something that must be opposed, because this is the embodiment of tyranny. But this is at the heart of what Jesus is. And for Christians listening to this, I draw to your attention, if you want to say prosecution exhibit A for why Jesus is not a figure of love, is Matthew 10, verse 34 through 37. Think not that I have come to send peace on earth. I have not come to send peace, but a sword. For I have come to set man at variance against his father, and daughter against her mother, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. But he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. This makes Jesus into a narcissistic sociopath that has absolutely no regard for anyone but him. He wants you to hate everyone, even those in your own family, that you have to love them less than him. He is wanting to put himself above all else. This is not somebody that is a figure of love. This is someone that is all about control and fear. If a God would exist and would be morally superior and so forth to us, it certainly would not act like this. This is the actions of somebody that is actually extremely insecure. So insecure that they can't handle someone loving another person more than them. That is insecurity. That is something that should not be looked at as a virtue, because it's not. This is someone that, by the very nature of their character, and this is getting at the heart of the character of the person that is saying this. And when you compare it with other things that the character of Jesus is supposed to have said, it becomes very, very clear just how wicked this person was, how much of a figure of control he was. Now, could it have been part of the culture at that time? That's possible. That the culture and the way humanity was back at this time, maybe this type of thought process was more acceptable. But we have grown and matured as a species, and recognize that this type of thing is actually harmful. So if Jesus was some great big hippie of peace and love and all that stupid shit, it would not have said the things that it did. However, now I'm going to shift to what is in the Yellow Book, starting with, was Jesus really an alien? This subject may be offensive to people, but just remember, I'm only reporting what the Yellow Book says, so don't kill the messenger. The Yellow Book also shows an Eben who took the appearance of an earth human, Jesus Christ. According to the Yellow Book, this earth human established religion on earth and posed as the first alien ambassador on earth. As revealed in the Yellow Book, Jesus Christ was a creation of one particular alien group, the Ebens. Jesus was a genetically engineered human-alien hybrid, sent to Earth to teach humans a lesson of love and tolerance. But I guess we didn't learn this lesson. As writer Arthur C. Clarke said, any significantly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Is it any wonder that ancient people were impressed by the miracles of Jesus? This, of course, wasn't the first time extraterrestrials tried to influence human affairs. Previously, they successfully appeared to Moses as a burning bush, alien craft, and radiation, and presented the Ten Commandments to mankind. The aliens thought the Christ Project would be no different. But needless to say, their experiment went horribly awry. Although many believe and teach that sacrificing his life was the main objective of his sojourn on Earth. Supposedly the Ebens were angry when they came back to check on Jesus' progress, only to find that the humans had killed him. And worse yet, these primitive Earthlings started worshiping him after that. 2,000 years and millions of atrocities later, Jesus, the space alien, is still being worshipped as a god. Man is truly a pathetic creature, desperately yearning for an almighty being to control and regulate their lives, frantically looking for God in tortillas, oil stains, and tree trunks. Well, like it or not, hidden somewhere in some ultra top secret government facility, or even more likely to be in the Vatican's archives, is probably clear evidence that most of the gods of Earth's ancient religions were aliens. How many of Earth's religions are based on extraterrestrials interacting with humans, displaying technology, and being mistaken as gods by the primitive humans? Kind of like the cargo cults in the Pacific during World War II, who worshiped the technically advanced Americans who flew to their island and gave them food and displayed miraculous items like radios and guns. Unfortunately, the powers that be are more than happy to have the human sheeple believing in false religions, which keep them pacified, compliant, and restrained. So it's unlikely the general public will ever actually see the definitive evidence for themselves. But as logical, intelligent beings, we humans have the capacity to recognize the truth about religion for ourselves. Were aliens present at the crucifixion of Jesus? I ask this because painted on walls of, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that cathedral's name, northwest of Gorgarian capital in Tbilisi, is an image of Christ that has sent conspiracy theorists into a frenzy. The fresco painting shows Christ being crucified with a large crown gathered around him. But at the top and left corner are what appear to be flying craft of some form of advanced technology, which humans, of course, clearly would not have had 2,000 years ago. The ships are dome-like, with 3 trails coming out of each, which looks like a propellant of some kind, or possibly lights shining down. Art historians who have studied the 11th century painting claim that the strange craft actually represents guardian angels, but during the Byzantine period, which was present in Southeast Europe and Southwest Asia up until the 1450s, angels were depicted as human-like with wings. The unknown artist seems to be telling us that these flying saucers were present during the death of Jesus. The faces likely mean craft were piloted by people or beings that seemed to play a central role in the event. They must have been part of the crucifixion story, or at least was taught by the Gorgarian Orthodox Church, where early artists and Orthodox Church were aware of certain facts about ancient aliens that have been veiled to us today. This may come as a surprise to you, but throughout history, Jesus Christ and Christianity have been linked to alien activity. Two separate texts from Egypt now being held in the Morgan Library and Museum in New York City, and the other at a museum of the University of Pennsylvania, which have been deciphered in the past few years, and they actually suggest that Jesus was an alien shapeshifter. Now this is getting really bizarre. The text describes Judas' betrayal of Christ. Then the Jews said to Judas, "How shall we arrest him, Jesus? For he does not have a single shape, but his appearance changes. Sometimes he is ruddy, sometimes he is white, sometimes he is red, sometimes he is wheat-colored, sometimes he is pallid, like accents, sometimes he is a youth, sometimes an old man." Another reading of the Coptic language, a form of Egyptian, describes how Pontius Pilate had dinner with Jesus the night before his crucifixion. This Roman, who considered a saint in the Coptic churches, which would explain the favorable view of him, then tells Jesus, "Well then, behold, the night has come. Rise and withdraw. And when the morning comes and they accuse me because of you, I shall give them my only son I have, so that they kill him in your place." To which Jesus responds, "O Pilate, you have been deemed worthy of a great grace because you have shown a good disposition to me." Jesus then supposedly showed Pilate that he can escape if he chose by shape-shifting. The text reads, "Pilate then looked at Jesus, and behold, he became incorporeal. He did not see him for a long time." The annotation with Saint Didymus is an altar piece painted by the Italian artist Carlo Cervilli in 1486. It was crafted to commemorate the angel Gabriel's announcement to Virgin Mary that she would be given birth to Jesus. Conspiracy theorists suggest the top ring depicted in the top left shining light onto Mary is an alien craft, but art experts say that it simply shows a small collection of angels gathered around a circle of clouds. The ring and light represent the Holy Spirit descending towards the Virgin Mary. The baptism of Christ, 1711. Art experts suggest that this painting is a reference to a religious passage. The heavens opened up and the Spirit descended like a dove and put lighting upon him. It was painted by Dutch artist Art de Geter in the 18th century. UFO hunters suggest that the disc-like object shown, shining light unto John the Baptist and Jesus, could be a UFO. This scene has been illustrated by many artists, says the UFO theorist website, Ancient Aliens. However, this scene is particularly interesting because of the flying saucer hovering over the scene with beams of light shining down and illuminating the event. Considering de Geter's reputation as one of the more elite artists of his time, it is likely this work was intended to be taken seriously and meant to communicate that Jesus had ties with aliens and perhaps was of alien origins. Okay, that is what is in the Yellow Book regarding the character of Jesus, and there are a lot of problems that I have with this. Not the least of which, they are actually trying to use paintings from well over 1,000 to nearly 2,000 years after the fact, as if they are evidence of what happened during the time of this supposed Jesus. Paintings from well over 1,000 years after the fact are not evidence of anything during the time of this supposed Jesus. A picture painted, I don't care if it is a day after or 1,000 or more years after, is not the same as a picture taken at the time of an event happening. Anytime you have somebody painting a picture of something, you have artist's interpretation and even what could be termed artistic flair. The person painting a picture is vastly different from a photograph that is taken from a camera. A camera will just give you a picture of what is there. Somebody painting a picture has to put in every detail that they want in the picture. There is no way that something can be in a picture that was not intended by the painter, because the painter has to put every brush stroke, every bit of it in. So you have the artist directly interacting with, and that the picture that they're painting is an extension of themselves. It is not a historical piece of evidence. It is at most a painting or a picture of art. Nothing more, nothing less. It does not matter how many UFOs are put around Jesus in paintings. That does not make him an alien. It does not mean that aliens were involved. There is also a conflict in the narrative that they are giving with this quote. Supposedly, the Ebens were angry when they came back to check on Jesus' progress, only to find that the humans had killed him. And worse, these primitive earthlings started worshiping him after that. That indicates the idea that they were not aware of the crucifixion or what happened until they returned, which is in direct conflict with the idea that aliens were present at the crucifixion, which is right under it. Were aliens present at the crucifixion of Jesus? You can't have two ideas which are this much in contrast to each other, right back to back, and try to act as if it is a coherent narrative. If they didn't know until they came back what had happened, then there's no way they could have been there at the crucifixion, or they would have known at the crucifixion what was going on. This just does not work. These are all paintings that were done. Paintings are not pictures. They did not have picture technology back 2,000 years ago. So there's no way to have actual picture photographic evidence of what would have happened. We just don't know. And to try and give ideas that are mutually exclusive really renders a major problem in your story. You can't have that aliens didn't know until they came back what was the fate of this Jesus, and then say, were they present at the crucifixion? That doesn't work. And when your only quote-unquote evidence are paintings from well over 1,000 years after the fact, no painting from any time period would be, in my view, evidence of anything other than what was in the mind of the painter himself. It simply is not the same as a photograph or a video. There's some things you just can't duplicate as far as something being authentic, especially when you're painting it. I also have major problems with the idea of the whole Virgin Mary and that narrative, because what that comes down to is what Mark Powers had explained to me. Christians do not understand Hebrew. There are two Hebrew words that get translated as virgin in English, but they are not, and I want to stress this, they are not what is depicted in Christianity. The first is an Alma, which is a young woman, and to be blunt, a total fucking whore. could be an Alma, as so long as she is a young woman. Because the only qualification for qualifying as an Alma in Hebrew is a young woman. The other Hebrew word that means a sexual virgin is a Bethulah, Bethulah. That is a sexual virgin. It does not matter if the woman is 8 or 88. If she's never had sex, that is the Hebrew word that would apply to her. There is no Hebrew word for impregnated by Casper or the product of an alien-human hybrid or that type of bullshit. That just doesn't exist in Hebrew. There is no word for that. The whole narrative with Jesus falls flat on its face when you understand the Hebrew. It also further falls flat on its face when you understand in the Old Testament the God was very much focused on bloodline. Bloodline was everything. Everything hinged on bloodline. And you do not pass on the bloodline through the mother. It is through the father that the bloodline is passed on, or the family name is passed on. The idea regarding Messiah was that the Messiah would be born of a Jewish mother and Jewish father. Also, the Messiah had to fulfill specific characteristics in their lifetime in order to qualify as the Messiah. If they failed to do even one, they would not be the Messiah. There is no, you're going to come back and do it again. No, you would get it done in one lifetime or you're not it. And the criteria, one was anointed priest, and that would only be possible by someone that is a priest or high priest. It would never be a prostitute that would anoint someone and make them a priest or a leader of Israel. Another criteria was the ending of all war. All of us know war did not end 2,000 years ago. We still have war today. So Jesus failed to fulfill the criteria for Messiah, so he was not a Christ. Another criteria that he failed to fulfill was the building of the third temple. He could not build the third temple because the second temple was still standing. It was not talking about his body. His body was not the temple. The temple was the temple of Solomon, who was the first king of Israel. It was Solomon's temple. And David rebuilt that temple. And the third temple was supposed to be what the quote-unquote Messiah would bring about. That can't happen now because in the location of that temple is the Dome of the Rock, a major Islamic structure that the destruction of that would bring about a major war between Islam and Judaism. So without having a massive war over religious buildings, you cannot have a Messiah, period. This is where the whole idea of Jesus being some kind of alien does not work. It also means the idea of a Messiah now cannot happen because the building and construction of that third temple would be a critical part. But to do that, you would have to destroy the Dome of the Rock, which would seriously piss off the Muslims. And it would lead to a massive war, which all of you obviously know. When I mention the Dome of the Rock, it's immediate that it would be, oh shit, that's going to bring on a shitstorm. And yeah, it would bring on quite a shitstorm. So the idea of there being an actual Messiah that Jews would accept to know their Torah, it can't happen. It's impossible, because the resulting aspect of a war, it would be a bloodbath type of thing, because Muslims would not just roll over and go along with Jewish ideas. It ain't happening. And the alien idea, it's just, even if it would be true, it is so unprovable. And not to mention, with what was in the document that I was given, the aspect of the aliens are known to lie. That fact in and of itself would be enough to have me questioning, are they lying when they claim that Jesus was of their creation? It seems to me, and to my brain, like they would simply be trying to latch on to an iconic figure of human creation in order to try and give more validity to them. It does not mean that it actually was the case. Before wrapping up this video, I want to make sure that I touch on the biggest problem I have with Christianity and Jesus, that being the idea of scapegoating. The idea that you can wash away how you have treated others simply by thinking a Jesus died for you. This is by itself the most immoral, unethical proposition that could ever be put forward. Your thinking something does not and cannot negate how you have treated someone else. It is a slap in the face to a God, if one would exist, as well as to those that you hurt, for you to claim or for you to think that just because you believe someone died, that washes away what you have done. That is a great big fuck you to those that you hurt. It shows that you don't give a damn about anyone but your own sorry, self-centered ass. I don't give a shit whose idea this was. Be it a god, be it an alien, be it people. Whoever came up with this idea is a fucking idiot that doesn't give a damn about those that your actions hurt. I've said it in multiple videos and I'll say it again and again. The raped woman remains raped. The molested child remains molested. The murdered person remains dead. Why should the perpetrator of those things be able to get off and have it washed away just because they think a Jesus died? Not only is that completely immoral, as well as impossible, it is showing a complete disregard for those that your actions hurt. Even if you didn't rape or murder someone, if you harm someone else, thinking that your actions can be washed away because you think someone died for you is a great big fuck you to those that you hurt. It is showing that you don't give a damn about anyone but yourself. And to further compound your own ignorant, self-centered ass to also go along with the idea that anyone that doesn't think like you should be tortured forever because they don't think like you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you forever. Acting as if people have to think like you or else is tyranny at its most obvious. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comments section. Later, people.